It's episode 319 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture, and I'm your host, Brian Barnett.
I am the worst promise, Chris Cornelise.
The worst promise?
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3. You know, I'm trailing around the third promise, but I'm worse, so, you know.
I can't believe it. Are you playing Final Fantasy 14?
I certainly am.
Oh
and
my
we'll get
God.
into that at some point.
Holy
Who are
moly.
you?
But who are you first?
I'm Lucas, and I'm shocked that Chris is playing Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, don't worry, not as shocked as I was.
For a second, I thought you were going to say, after he said, I'm the, what is it, the worst promise? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. That's what I said.
You started out, Lucas, saying, I can't believe, and I thought you were going to say, and I can't believe it's not Butter Lucas White.
Unless you can believe it, in which case, well,
Unless you
what are we
can,
doing
I,
here?
for one,
Pack
can
it up.
believe that Lucas White is made exclusively of butter. So,
Only butter. No organs.
yeah. Fresh creamery butter. Is there anything more comforting? Anyways.
I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know how we got here.
Well, I can tell you how I got here, and we can kick off the show in that way.
Why not?
For the past week, I've been without power because Hurricane Beryl hit Houston. And the
Yes,
grid
I had
just
heard that.
Exploded.
Yeah, Texas seems to have a habit of doing that the moment the weather gets, slightly inclement.
That is accurate.
Where'd Ted Cruz go on vacation this time?
Well, I didn't have time to see because I didn't have power.
Fair enough.
So
Well, if he's anything like former Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, it was probably Hawaii. Because that's exactly where the guy went vacationing when, the country was burning down.
it
was Cancun last time, wasn't it?
It was Cancun, and he blamed it on his daughters, which is
Incredible.
just
Yep.
like, come on. Have some guts and just take responsibility for the fact that you don't want to be around for this. I don't want to be around for this either, but I'm not rich, so I can't just scoot off into the horizon to the Caribbean whenever I get inconvenienced. Anyways, it's really the last time that something like this happened to me and my family personally was during the freeze, which was like 3 years ago and some. And my daughter and my wife and I were cuddled inside of a drafty apartment that we lived in with the power out and seeing if we could all huddle together for warmth through the night, wondering if we were going to freeze to death. So this time it was on the other side of the spectrum, and it was hotter than the bejesus. And so luckily, after a while, we were able to stay with some friends a few neighborhoods over who got power back after like a day or two. And we stayed there until yesterday, and then our power came on here. And so yesterday and today we've just been cleaning out the house. Everything in the freezer, everything in the refrigerator went bad, so the house reeked.
Of course.
There was just a bunch of stuff. We have 3 leaks in our roof. We had a bunch of, it destroyed my favorite tree in the front yard. Just like knocked it right over out of the ground. So that had to be chopped up and taken away, which sucks because that was the only climbing tree we had. So.
That really sucks.
Yeah. So we're trying to get together with FEMA and like some workplace emergency relief stuff so that we can help pay for the roof. But other than that, and being stuck in a house with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people and 3 animals and a lot of fighting amongst the children. I'm just trying to
Of course.
get back into it.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
Luckily, this has a little bit of a battery, so unlike my desktop, I was still able to keep playing some games from time to time when I was able to.
The Balatro never ceased.
Actually, I mean, I did play. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna. Lie
you,
to you. I
you
did.
can't
I
lie to me,
definitely-
man. We know.
I definitely played Balatro. However, some DLC for another game that is quite dear to me just came out.
Ah.
And so I jumped into that. I don't know if we want to start
The
there.
Erd Tree shadows and all that.
Yes, indeed.
Go for
yes,
it.
indeed. So yeah, Shadow of the Erd Tree from Elden Ring. I respect you. And I see what they're doing with this expansion, and I like it because they're shoring up. Either they held stuff in reserve knowing it was going into the DLC, or they're supplementing stuff that was missing from the base game. But I like it because there's a lot of cool stuff that I've picked up so far, and it's fun. It's fun to play with. I've picked up like 4 or 5 new weapons, and I want to use like 3 of them. Like it's really good. It doesn't hurt me wanting to try new weapons that I've platinumed to the game once and am close to doing it a second time on a different platform. And I've used, I want to say I used katanas both times. Because like Dex Int
Fucking weeb.
is my it's the moveset specifically. I'm not a huge fan. Usually just full thing. Usually in Souls games, I go in my main hand I'll have like a straight sword or a long sword or something. That's typically what I do. And then in the offhand, I will alternate between a shield and a staff for sorceries. That's typically the setup I do, and I usually end up having a one-handed sword in the main hand and a casting catalyst in the offhand, and I just do like dodging, slashing, and casting spells. In this one, I think starting with Demon Souls after a while. I think in Demon Souls I had a rapier because that's what the royal class starts with. I think I start with a rapier and a catalyst or something. So that kind of got me into that, and then that branched over into like I think Dark Souls 3 I did probably straight sword, and then also did like a rapier at some point. But I got into the Dark Moon Greatsword in this game. So I've been alternating between single katana and offhand sorcery, and doing offhand sorcery with a giant 2-handed magic greatsword, which is a hell of a lot of fun. And then dual wielding katanas, which is something that I started doing in my first playthrough on PlayStation when I was doing a bleed build, which I found really, really fun. I was doing like dual wielding bleed katanas and dragon communion incantations. So just giant breath attacks to put Scarlet Rot and stuff on people, and then just attack them with katanas and bleed them to death. It's awesome. It's awesome. I love it. So anyway, so that's what I've been getting into, but there's a lot of really cool stuff going on with this. There's some cool bosses. There's really awesome new trinkets and amulets and stuff, including some that reward you for being really fucking heavy and being like heavily encumbered, which is very interesting.
That is interesting. I feel like that was not something that was really encouraged in base Elden Ring.
Yeah.
It's like you could do it, but like so much of the armor was more just it was almost like cosmetic. Like the differences it did were very minor. You were still probably going to die in 2 hits. So it's like, fuck it.
Yeah.
We fashion souls now.
Yeah. There was a talisman early in the in the base game where it would reward you with, I think it was attack. It would like increase your attack power based on how light you were. There's now one of those types of rings, but that confers benefits depending on how highly burdened you are. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Fought some real wild bosses, some new enemies that are pretty insane. But I'm digging it. I like it a lot. I think it's great.
Good times, yeah. Seems to be generally, pretty well received, aside from people going, it's too hard. It's like, you people have been bitching about this entire time.
Now, I know that I'm maybe not the person that people should believe when I say this, but I haven't found it that hard. Now, maybe that's just because I've platinumed every game since the Demon Souls release on PS3. And I've written guides for these games. I've done challenge runs of these games, but like Shadow of the Erdtree is not any harder than like clearly the people who think this is too hard did not play the Dark Souls 3 DLC. That shit was fucking impossible sometimes. Like just trying to approach the Ringed City, like after you beat the Demon Prince boss fight, was like fucking really frustrating. But yeah.
I can believe it.
I haven't seen.
Have you played before the patch at all?
What do you mean?
Or is this all? There was a patch.
There was a
after
DLC,
the DLC
patch?
came out.
No, I have not played before.
They tweaked the. I think it was just the scaling of those collectibles that you have to get. I think they front loaded it a little more.
Okay.
Yeah, they front loaded the Scatter Tree blessings. I don't know if they actually nerfed any of the bosses, because again, I haven't played it yet. I'm still chipping away very, very slowly at the base game to get back to that point. But yeah, I know there was a patch rolled out, and that's all I can tell you.
Yeah,
it was apparently made things easier.
Yeah, I do know that they changed the scaling on those blessings to give you more of the overall benefits up front and then less later.
They sort of flipped it a little bit
to kind of help ease people in. But I honestly, they give you so many if you just look around that I have not gone out of my way to look for them, and I think my blessing level is at like 6 or 7 already. And I've only beaten like 5 bosses total, including like some bosses in like smaller areas.
The lesson was there to learn at the very start against the Tree Guardian in Elden Ring. It's like, you see that guy, you can go fight him, or you can just go around him, come back later. Yeah, it's up to you. But the option is there.
Yeah. So far, there's only one.
If you beat your head against it and that's your own problem if that's what you're gonna do.
There's an enemy very early that makes the Tree Sentinel look like a child that's still in their swaddling clothes, and that is the only enemy I have not. That's the only enemy that I've like avoided, and I tried to fight it straight up like at first. I could probably go back now because that was like literally the beginning when I had no blessings at all. And now I have like better equipment. My weapons are stronger. I've got new sorceries and stuff. Yeah, I could go. You know what? I'm gonna do that after this. I'm gonna go see if I what he's like now. But yeah, I dig it. I'm not going to. One of my least favorite things. Spoiler culture is kind of like wild with it, but I have discovered that there are certain things that I very much care about and certain things that I don't care about as much. And certain other things that I am trying not to care as much about because ultimately they don't really matter. But this game and the stuff that FromSoft puts out specifically in this series are very precious to me. So I've been avoiding basically everything, and I'm not going to spoil anything here.
That's fair.
There's a fun boss that I will lovingly call DK. That was real fun. There's the very good dog fight that is very interesting and definitely indicative of, or kind of evokes more of the Sekiro kind of boss philosophy, which I thought was very interesting. In many ways, and I know that I've said this a bunch of times before, I feel like Elden Ring is a greatest hits album for From Software. And I think
absolutely.
That continues with this DLC. Like, they're pulling in more greatest hits from other things that they've done. And I mean, it's hard to believe that I would think this because of how openly opposed I am to making games open world. But I think Elden Ring, just pound per square inch, is the best thing that FromSoft has ever put in this series. I think that, like, for specifically crafted things, I feel like Bloodborne or maybe Dark Souls 1 are better, just for like curation. But
yeah, I would agree.
But it's hard for me to find fault with this game, with that lone exception. It's just like, but the way that the world is put together is so cool that it's like, well, that's just like, that's a different thing. So I'm kind of the.
It does a decent job of making up for the open world facets, which, you know, you attach those to a lot of games and it just feels unnecessary. And the same is technically true of Elden Ring. I don't find it completely necessary, but what is there, if you explore and poke around, is generally varied and cool, and you find stuff that's like, this may not go well for my build, but I could see a build out of it just off the beaten path somewhere, and it's like, that's neat. So
yeah, it's about options. And there are many times during, you know, your time with the game where it will focus down, whether you're in a legacy dungeon or you're in a cave or something like that, where like it will become curated. You will have those double backs, those shortcut discoveries and things like that in a way that happens in other parts of the series, which I think is also nice. It would suck if that was completely absent. I wish it was there more, but honestly, it's still there a lot. It's just like, by volume, most of it is open world by nature of just the way that the world is constructed. But yeah, overall, big fan.
Earlier you said something like it might be making up for something that was missing from the game before. And I'm curious what you meant by that.
There are certain enemy types that were in previous entries that were not in Elden Ring that now are. There were certain types of equipment that were not really present, and now there are like more of them. And there are like different ideas that haven't really been explored, or if they have been explored, they haven't been explored in these particular, like, they're little wrinkles on what has come before. I kind of want to share specific examples, but
the greatest hits.
Yeah, but also
filled in all the blanks.
Yeah, but also it's, I mean, this took place in the Bloodborne DLC, which I think previously was probably the best DLC that they had done. I'm not done with this, so I'm not going to make that judgment. It will be a tall order for this to beat the old Hunters DLC.
Old Hunters is really good.
It's extremely good, and a lot of the things that they introduced, whether they were enemies, whether they were trick weapons or whatever, were taking things that existed and adding like really weird wrinkles on them. Like the mace that took your own blood to make it create a bunch of spikes. Like, that's a really cool weapon, and it hurts you when you do it. So it's like, there's an interesting thing to do here.
There's the risk-reward combination, Yeah,
and I thought story-wise it was masterful. I like this. I like that what's going on with the story in this game as well, or in this DLC as well. But I really respect the way that they are introducing. There's new armor sets that are in different like weight categories. There's new talismans that let you use the things that you have in new ways. Like the thing that I was talking about earlier, there's the talisman about like being heavily burdened and getting an additional benefit from your talisman out of it. It's like, this is one item they can introduce that can reframe the way you use a bunch of different things. Or like how you play the game. And I have a lot of respect for that, like exploring this space. It's so easy, given how many games in this series that they've put out, to just be like, you guys remember this? Because that's the trap that Dark Souls 3 fell into. You guys remember Dark Souls 1? You liked it? Well, here's a hat that looks like it was from Big Hat Logan. And it's like, well, they haven't done that I've seen in this game. They're doing new things. You know, they're embracing new ideas. At least so far as I have seen. You know, there's new characters. There's just you're introduced to a bunch of characters up front. And unfortunately, I unwittingly did something that locked myself out of some content, which sucks because this is my save game that I was going for 100% completion on, and I can't actually go back and undo that.
They don't have like an absolution right or anything that you can do?
I don't think so.
That sucks. Because I know you can do that in like base game. It's like if you kill somebody or whatever, there is an item and ritual you can do over by the Turtle Pope. That's like
that.
Yep.
This is something else.
I figured, yes, but
yeah,
over by the Turtle Pope.
Oh man, the best
Turtle
best
Pope
of
is
boys.
the bro.
But yeah, so I like that so far. I like the. It's just been great to get back into that world, you know. So yeah,
Nice.
I recommend it.
I'll get there one day, hopefully, maybe.
Maybe.
If you need help, hit
I've
me
been
up.
thinking about it.
I'm just a summon away.
I finished Elden Ring like back when it was new and everything, and I just the idea of more of it just hasn't screamed at me as like an appealing thing, and I don't really know why.
It didn't. Hey, full disclosure, it didn't to me either. I was kind of like, I bought it because I was like, once I start playing it, I'm gonna enjoy it, but I don't really feel like doing it. And then I started, and then I was like, it's pretty good. It still didn't completely pull me in because I have other stuff that I'm playing that is also, like, I'm also enjoying it. And like being stuck in this situation, it's like
not been conducive to
I
that
haven't
kind of
had
play.
time to like really sit down. I mean, I've played it for hours and hours and hours, but I haven't had the time that I would want to get further, you know, and I've had other concerns and things to try to deal with. So
Yeah.
but I will say it was very comforting. And this is something that like, you know, a lot of times we talk with Will or other people in the industry about action games. And, you know, people will talk about, Souls games and how much, you know, how popular they are and how some people lament that it was not things like Ninja Gaiden or Devil May Cry. I almost said Dragon May Cry. That's not a thing. Dragon is dead. Devil May Cry, you know. But
Devil's May Dogma.
yeah. But it's interesting because I hadn't really thought about this until recently. I've compared the Souls games to like I don't know if I've done this on the show, but I've compared them to like comfort food or something like that. They're very soothing to me. And I think the difference is the Souls games only put demands on you. They only put very specific types of demands on you. Like there's no demand for time. Like you don't have to be fast. You don't have to be frenetic. You can be slow and methodical. And so you can take your time and pick apart your enemy's defenses and it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, you can be very slow and methodical about it. That's not how Devil May Cry works. That's not how Ninja Gaiden works. Like, you got to be doing stuff. It's frenzied. It's Twitch based. It's, you know, that sort of stuff. Souls is not like that. And I think that is why I find it so relaxing. I think that's why I find it so soothing to be in that world, which might sound like a wild thing to say about something so many people consider to be hard and unforgiving, but all you really have to do is pay attention and be patient, and I've got that in spades. So it's, you know, I like it a lot.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And then when you are able to just sink into it, there's nothing else quite like it. They are really neat, interesting worlds.
Yeah.
Just very well crafted. And yeah, I get it. I completely get it.
Yeah. Anyways, let me not take up any more room in the show with talk of the Shadow Tree.
Fair, fair. And what have you been up to, Lucas?
Sure. So the most recent thing I played is a little game called Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder. That is something that published a review for on shacknews.com just this morning. I believe I gave it a 7 out of 10. It's a indie Metroidvania. Stop me if you've heard that before.
Stop.
Yeah.
Let me guess, roguelike elements?
No, not at all.
You know, that's the flip side.
Yeah, no. So it does have something about it that's kind of unique in a weird way. That is very heavily story driven. In my headline, I called it a Metroidvania with a hint of visual novel.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an indie game, and notably, it's this team. I believe they're called Metamorphosis Games. It's their very first game. And their whole pitch on their website is like, we all worked in an office and then decided to make a video game that we wanted to make. So it's like, it's not even like disparate people from other developers coming together or whatever. It's just like some homies got together and made a video game.
You'll love to see it.
Yeah. And having that context, if you look at it,
It looks incredible
super
by
impressive.
that context, yeah.
Yes, the visuals alone are ludicrous. They're so good. Really detailed 2D art. The character portrait, especially for the main character, who has a really distinct look. Just incredible detail. It doesn't look like sometimes 2D art, especially when it's like, I'm just going to say lower budget for ease of reference. It doesn't quite look the way this does. And like the animations are really detailed. There's a lot going for it, just visually. So that's cool. But the visual novel thing, basically this game has a story, and it is not afraid to just stop moving to tell that story. There's a lot of dialogue. In fact, it's more dialogue than like other kinds of reading. Like, you're not going through a codex or like reading items that you pick up, whatever. It's almost all dialogue, and it will routinely stop you. Like, if you hit a point in the story, it will stop. Like, you go into a different room or leave a dungeon or go somewhere entirely different in the world, just to do like an aside between two other characters. So it's sort of like, there's a lot of dramatic irony in it. So like, you'll be doing your one thing with the hero, then it's like, and here's what's going on between these two shady people. It does that a lot. The game's like 10 hours long, and it's pretty chunky in terms of like dialogue sequences. And then the Metroidvania stuff really takes a backseat. It's very it's not linear, but it's very guided. And by that I mean, like, unless you're going for like the little collectibles, you're not really doing any sort of like backtracking that's not part of the script.
Right.
Yeah, so like there's even like the warp points, whatever. Like, oh, you connected this to the thing, so you can go. You're not gonna really ever use one as part of the story, which I was kind of surprised by. You're not like when you get your double jump, whatever. You're going to be using that immediately to keep moving the story forward instead of being like, oh shit, okay, I remember I got stuck at this part that because it was too high, so I need to go over there to move the story forward. It's
I
like,
saw that missile tank up there that needs a screw attack upgrade, you know.
Yeah, no, and this is just like basically the next room is going to start using it, and you're kind of going to loop back around. If you go back at all, it'll be very organic. So it's almost more like Metroidvania as like set dressing than Metroidvania as anywhere else you'd see it. So that's kind of interesting. And then like the combat is a little more like I don't want to say straightforward or cliche, but it's like more something you'd expect to see.
Functional.
Yeah, it's like there's a skill tree, and you like add to your basic combo, and there's like a dodge roll and like heavy attacks that use meter, and you have this like gun that sort of like has a stun gimmick to it, but it's more like non-distinct, I guess. It doesn't really like. It's definitely like the weak point. I think like if you think about this is the first game these people made, and they wanted to make the game they wanted to make, so you probably had like these are all the things we like about combat and video games, and let's try to like throw it all together and do something cool. And it's like, okay, there's a stamina meter for your rolls, and sometimes you'll just have like, enemies will just spam the one thing they do at you, and it's kind of annoying, and just like not super duper polished, not all the like, we had this idea, but we didn't really think about like how it clashes with this other idea we have, that kind of thing. But like overall, I think it's a very 7 out of 10. Like, this was neat. I had a good time with it.
And for a first appearance for a lot of them, seems pretty good.
Definitely. And like I saw another outlet, I think it was RPG Site, they gave it a 9. So it's definitely like impressing people for sure. So I think I would say like, if you like Metroidvanias, or you're kind of sick of them because there's 50 bajillion of them, especially in indies, this one kind of
50 bajillion
has more of a text-based storytelling focus to it that feels weird to say makes something stand out, but in this context it does.
Yeah, it's a genre that usually is pretty sparse on story.
Yeah, or it's usually like in the background and the environments, blah blah blah.
Or you go like through 2 whole zones before you pop up and have a single dialogue with a character that you run into or something like that.
Exactly. And this one, it's like up front, like this is a story. It's a whole story I wanted to tell, and there's Metroidvania stuff kind of holding it up. So it's cool. I think it's coming to Switch eventually. It's on PC right now. And then they were like, oh, if these go okay, maybe we'll do other platforms too. But it's PC and then
nowadays it feels like those 2 are the only platforms worth a damn, right?
Yeah, no kidding, man. Switch 2 comes out and solves like a couple problems holding that back. It might be over.
Yeah. I hope it comes out soon. My current Switch is starting to I probably need to replace the battery on it because it's old. I've had it since first year of it, so I'm just noticing that the battery life is getting shorter and shorter. It's like, that's under an hour even with no sound. That's not great.
Or
I can't play Nintendo games on that. You're right.
Really
You're completely right. But there are games on the Switch that are only on the Switch because Nintendo were like the only ones that actually justify exclusives now.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But if you don't need the Nintendo games, or if you're willing to do a little hanky-panky.
Not the best kind of hanky-panky. It's very
no, it's not.
hanky-panky.
It's not the most enjoyable type of hanky-panky. That's true. It's very true.
And it's the here comes Nintendo with the cease and desist kind of hanky-panky.
They were asking for it, to be fair.
Only if you get caught. But yeah,
You don't just brag about hacking the new Zelda game before it comes out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're not to be consequences. Yeah, this one, it's like shutting the fuck up is free. Yeah,
it is. It is.
The age-old words of Wooly. It's like if you have a cool fan game or a cool project or whatever, that sounds great. I really want to play it. Look forward to seeing what you do. Shut the fuck up about it until it's ready.
Yeah.
Put it out there, let the people back it up, and then then you can start talking shit.
Once it's on the internet doesn't forget.
Yeah.
Like Nintendo came for Project AM2R, but you can still get AM2R, and you should play AM2R if you like Metroid.
You get it.
You should,
get it nice
and
easy.
I should. You know what? I should see if I can get that on my Steam Deck, and then I'll bet I'll play it.
Oh, you could absolutely. I mean, it was built for PC, like fan game. So
I just haven't like downloaded it there. Yeah.
I'd say I'd send you my copy, but I don't actually have it because new PC. So I got to get that as well.
Nice.
I must keep the torch alive. AM2R is great.
Yeah, that's my one game for now.
Gestalt, Steam, and Cinder.
Yeah, Steam and Cinder, which I believe also came out today. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I looked at the Steam trailer and everything while we were talking, and yeah, it looks pretty neat.
Nice.
Yeah. Chris, I really need to hear about 14.
You need to hear. Okay.
I'm just shocked that you're playing it. I know we talked a lot about Dawntrail last week.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was the buffer to our SMT5 Power Hour, which I'm going to keep saying because I love saying SMT5 Power Hour.
Hell yeah. I'm curious, was it like the conversation, or did something else kind of trigger you coming back in?
It was a factor. I won't say it wasn't, but for a bit of a backstory then, I suppose, a couple of my, probably two of my dearest friends at this point, we go way back in terms of, playing MMOs and such together. One of them I met on WoW, one of them came later, and yeah. You would know one of them as an occasional, contributor to the chat who Brian loves to fuck up the name of. You know who it is. But, yeah, that's one of them. But for whatever reason, we were... something, just discussions about it came about, and one of them was watching over another person's shoulder as they played it and kind of went... I think there's enough here to justify it. And so they went back, and then they came to the other two of us and said, look, I think it's worthwhile. And then something about the discussion got the fires going, and we're just like, fuck, all right, we're in. So we all went back as a group, and that's how it goes. So
are you working your way through Endwalker or stuff?
Yes. Yes, and that's the thing I can talk about as well. So I left off at 6.0, which is just Endwalker base content. I finished the main story. I did the 2 expert dungeons at release. Dabbled a little bit in things there. Tried to find, what I could redeeming about it, and couldn't because, I fucking hated Endwalker. It's well cataloged. So it's just I'm just going to take a break. I'm going back to WoW. Me and those MMO buddies are you want to go back to WoW? And you can tell how much we hated Endwalker because we didn't go back to WoW and Dragonflight. We went back at the end of Shadowlands.
Oh,
Dragonflight wasn't out yet. We didn't know if that was going to be good or not. We're just no, fuck it. We need out.
It's the opposite of what everyone else did.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's how much we hated Endwalker. And I still stand by that.
Yeah. It's the...
That's fair.
You're not voting for that. You're voting against that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and over here is a comfort game. We can just fuck around, play some stuff. The dungeons, cheap, fun, whatever. It was good. And so we went back to WoW, and then turned out Dragonflight was great. So we're like, cool, we'll stay here.
Hell yeah. So now you're back here.
Now I'm back here.
Off the storyline you hated enough to quit into probably the most capital F filler arc of the entire
Oh, it's worse than that.
600
It's
hours.
garbage. It's just garbage. Like, the Endwalker patch content is in no way, shape, or form better than the base stuff. It goes off on its own, like 5-patch arc, which just wraps up completely, and it's bad.
So
Like,
it's so nothing to it, really.
anyone who sat there and liked that or thought it was good or whatever, it's like, let me tell you straight. Listen to me, guys. Listen. You're being emotionally manipulated. Okay? Get some media literacy. Look at it and realize, oh, they're hitting the beats at just the right moment to kind of string you along. They're giving you certain characters, like, if it ever... You can go back right through Endwalker base as well. And it's like, if you ever feel like you're maybe losing interest, that is the exact moment when Estinian will come in and do something cool.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Or say something really pointed and just back in. It's like... And to a point, there's decent writing in the ability to do that, but it comes across so manipulative when it's like trying to tease a player's emotions along and lead them by the emotions rather than actually telling the compelling, properly constructed narrative. Because there's so many holes in the plot, there's all sorts of, just the world building just goes out the window. They discard all sorts of stuff that came before, which is, again, true of the Endwalker patch content. Like, everything you knew about Void Scent, out the window. Doesn't matter. Irrelevant. We're telling FF4 now, and bad, and worse. The only thing I found good about that entire 5-patch thing, because I already went through it, right? I sprinted through it. And I fully admit there was a lot of cutscene skipping by the end, because it's like, I can't. I don't care. I tried my best, and it's like, I can't do it. I'd seen a bunch of it before anyway, so I didn't miss out on anything that much. There were two things. Two things I liked about it. The Etherthorn dungeon, that was cool. And the very last trial, that was fucking awesome. Mechanically. Story is still fucking dog shit, but like, mechanically, visually, musically, awesome. Awesome fight. That was the Zodiac fight we should have had and didn't get in base Endwalker. But the rest of it, absolute dog shit. Garbage.
Yeah, it was very much...
I don't get the love for it. I really do not.
I'm surprised there is love for it, because, like, I feel like even if you're bought in to all the Endwalker-y, lore-y stuff, and you like the dragon guy and whatever, it's like, they just sort of drag out Golbez to be like, I'm Golbez!
Yeah, that's all he's got.
The homies from thing.
His character trait is he is Golbez from FF4.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah, he just kind of shows up. He's like, oh, I'm spooky, and you fight him and the four fiends, and it's just like...
And they go in, like, 2 patches. Like, the four fiends are gone in 2 patches. It's
they
like,
don't do anything.
You were jobbers. Absolute jobbers.
Yeah.
To be
They don't do anything. They don't say anything of value.
To be fair, as cool as Golbez is, he was kind of nothing in Final Fantasy IV too.
Certainly, but he was more in Final Fantasy IV than he is here.
That is insane to me.
In 4, he has, like, motivations that line up with the whole story being told and everything. And here is literally just like, well, I'm Golbez. Like, I can't think of it.
He comes in, they throw out the established lore about the world and, like, that part of, like, powers and darkness and everything like that, in order to have Golbez do his thing, which is completely incongruent with everything that came before. Again, like, if you knew anything about the Void or the 13th or Void Center, whatever, if you looked in some of the margins, paid attention, everything they're saying is like, what? That's completely wrong. They just throw it all out, and and it's like, if it was right, then there'd be multiple factors here that, immediately just would come in. And I ultimately wrote off the entire thing, because at the end, they go, yes, we'll go forth, we'll do our thing, we're happy, we have a positive ending. And then I just put in, an hour later, the Cloud of Darkness reforms, eats them both, and continues status quo. The end. Because that's what's going to happen. That's the law.
Yeah, it's silly. like even without like the void sense stuff, because I had taken such a huge break, I didn't really remember that stuff going on.
Yeah.
So it was just
And a
sort of
lot
like,
of it
okay,
was very rarely like in the MSQ. Like a
yeah,
lot of it was in side raids and such, like the Void Arc raid, obviously.
yeah.
Things like that.
So for me, it was like, okay, I sort of like understand it's like the inverse of Shadowbringers in some ways, and there's like the monsters live here, and they have their weird Reaper lady. Um, but
Isn't
like,
she so cool? Look at her. Look at her doing all these cool things.
yeah,
I love her, and you should love her too.
there were moments where I did like her. To be fair, um, like
Few, far between, and
yeah,
quickly discarded.
when they did comedy with her, I think it was like uh, it was fun. Um, like there's something about the way 14 does goofy facial expressions that are really, that's really effective.
Mm-hmm. All
Um,
you have to do is just go to Hildebrand and just watch them crank the facial sliders to 500%, and that shit is comedy gold.
yeah, it's like the thing in Mario 64, but used in like a serious
Yeah,
RPG.
yes.
So funny. But yeah, so like even without the sort of like lore stuff, it's still just so like boring and shallow that like even in terms of like having a like the A plot or like the just the in the moment character interactions and stuff, there's just like nothing there.
Yeah.
It's definitely pretty annoying to even speed through.
Yeah, and it's not like the boss fights or anything are that special either. Like a lot of them are just fairly recycled mechanics and not a lot going on.
Yeah, it's very, very, very shallow. Um,
Again,
so
only exception, the very last one, that was cool.
yeah,
I will defend that one, but that's it.
so are you further than that, or have
Yes.
you?
We
Okay,
sprinted through it. We just like knuckled down, got through it in like 2-3 days, and like, oh, finally, fuck that.
so have you started Dawntrail?
I have.
Hell
I
yeah,
am. So, well, I have gone into Dawntrail. Obviously, it has the setup in the pre-patch thing where you're introduced to who will effectively be the main character, Wuklamut,
shout out Soul
and
Kamat.
shout out to Wuklamut. And yeah, people have said repeatedly that a lot of your enjoyment of this expansion will hinge on how much you like this character.
Mm-hmm.
To that, I say I agree, but I'm also just like, I find it difficult to see why people wouldn't be at least a little bit interested in this character from the start. Like, I thought the pre-patch was a great job of introducing, setting up, showing just enough hints of other things to go, okay, I see what you're about.
Yeah,
And I thought it was a pretty good setup. And yeah, sets up the whole new area. And then we get right back to doing what Final Fantasy always did very well. Final Fantasy 14 did very well. Go to a
mm-hmm.
new area, learn about
Yeah,
it, vibe with it.
yeah. Meet the locals, learn how they operate,
And
and
that's what I'm doing. And currently
yeah,
I'm just like, this is great. This is very good. The
yeah. The
lore is
whole
interesting. It follows up some like the whole what's his face, the explorer who discovered the new world, like Kenram or whatever.
mhm, mhm.
He's old lore. Like he
Yeah,
goes way back to like the Encyclopedia Eorzea and such. And they brought
mhm,
him back. They brought that aspect back and like, yep, no, we're expanding on that and building up the world and this place and its cultures and its people and the disparate history and such. And how, they were united under this absolute fucking giga chat of a Marmal jar. Like,
giant
shout outs to
two-headed
that
lizard
guy.
man just shows up and fixes everyone's problems.
Seriously. It sits there as like, benevolent dictator kind of looking out for people afterwards. Like, I like that. You're cool.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, so it's just interesting learning about that and the whole premise of, basically following in his footsteps, redoing that while also it being a contest for the throne between the different characters and seeing both their motivations, their ideologies and everything, and just immediately going, okay, okay, you need to go. I don't even need to worry about you because you will fuck up miserably on your own. You're an idiot. You're a bully. You're a thug. I like your spirit, kid, but you lack the heart. You got the brains, but not the heart.
Yeah,
And
it's funny.
Wuklamut is all heart.
Yeah, it's really simple in a way that 14 hasn't been in a long time, but it's like a really effective, really like well like grounded and structured, simple, uh,
Yeah.
which I think
It
really
doesn't have to be overly grand or exaggerated, and it never did. It didn't have to go. The scale doesn't have to be like, universal. It doesn't have to be to the depths of space. We've always just liked this world, this planet, these people, and
Mhm.
to have that sit down and expand on that more in ways that don't rewrite what came before or ignore it all, and
Mhm.
instead just complements it while having some good characters and some light moments and general development throughout. It's like this is solid.
Yeah.
It's solid, it's enjoyable, and so far I'm having a ball. I'm not even at the first dungeon yet, and I'm still just like, yeah, this is better than Walker was, barring
Yeah.
like the best
Easy.
parts of Garlemald.
Yeah.
Because there's two places in early Endwalker that kind of fit the rest of the mold of FF14, which is, go place, learn about them, fill in the blanks, kind of do that. And that's the first half of the Favnir zone, and
Mhm.
then Garlemald,
Mhm.
both of which are the best parts of that because it's exactly that.
Yeah.
This is just all of that and none of the, and then we go off into space. Well, at least not yet. I know the scales get a bit higher as it goes on, but
Yeah.
like that's fine. So
Yeah.
it's back to basics. It's grounded, it's solid, it's good. They haven't forgotten details. They haven't ignored what came before for the sake of an emotional payoff that's cheaply unearned.
Mhm.
It's good, and I like it, and I want to play more of it. And it's good to be back in its own way.
Hell yeah.
Boy, would I have not have gotten through Endwalker if I didn't have friends there to just vent about in Discord the whole time. We talked mad shit, and it was the only way we stayed sane. It was so bad.
I think I kind of like memory hold a lot of Endwalker, honestly. Like I was so not into it. I just like there's so much of it I just didn't retain. And I think like in a almost a defense mechanism kind of way.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I very much doubt I'll retain a lot of it.
I did the same with ARR and unpopular Mists of Pandaria as well.
Very unpopular.
Very
Wrong,
unpopular.
in fact.
Everybody I know loves Mists of Pandaria except for me. That the additions that they made, the aesthetics of that expansion, the things they did to the characters in that expansion, I hate it all. It's just awful. I don't like it.
Well, it's okay. We can't always be right all the time.
It's true. It's true. And I am right every other time. So I guess I had this one coming. But yeah,
It's funny. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, you guys may have seen Will and I just very briefly talking about this on Twitter, but I am interested in going back to FF14. Like, I've gotten through the worst of it, at least so I've thought. I don't know if I'm gonna dislike,
You've gotten past what would be the very slow onboarding,
yeah.
which, and it's like it's worth paying attention, and I do actually like the base ARR stuff to a point. Like it is very slow, it's very, takes a bit to get there, but the patch content in particular, it's like it builds up and it's like pay attention because this will come back later. And they mean it.
Yeah.
They really do mean it until Endwalker where they throw that shit out. So yeah.
I mean, it is interesting that there is so much out there, and whether it's the Star Wars sequels or various video games or what have you. I mean, you were talking about people to encouraging people to get media literacy or something like that, and it's also media experience. It's like I knew that stuff was not really hitting on or working on all cylinders firing and all that sort of stuff, but it's really been highlighted to me because recently I've been reading a lot more. I hadn't read for a long time, and now I'm like thoroughly back in it. Like I'm reading a number of books every month, and I'm on my 6th Dune book right now, and I just read.
You made it through. Damn.
I just read, or I might be on 5. I'm on Heretics of Dune. That might be
Can't remember.
5.
Uh,
Dune,
if
Messiah,
you get
Children
through-
of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune. Yeah, so I'm on number 5. And then I just also reread the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it's just like, and these are not the only. I'm not only reading fantasy and stuff, but I read some really harrowing shit. I read a book called Flyboys on World War II pilots in the Japanese theater, which was brutal. But doing that, it's just like, man, when people phone it in or they introduce pieces of lore or things that disagree with previously established things, it's just like, I just want to throw my hands up and be like, why do I even bother? It's kind of like AI art. It's like, why would I look at a piece of art that you didn't even bother to paint? Why would I read a book you didn't even bother to write? Like, and it's kind of like that, where it's just like, if you didn't consult the previous stuff that you did and make sure that this is consistent and like in line and a continuation of that, it's like, why are we here? Like, and I know that with MMOs, it's a little bit different because a lot of that is, or
little
can
mistakes or details, whatever, you can write those off.
That's fine, but it's main things. Yeah. It's just like, it's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating. And that sucks. But I have been kind of, there's so many people that play FF14, and the ability to have
it's really
character,
blown up like amongst our peer network in the past like couple of years. It's wild.
The ability to have one character and play every class is, as somebody who comes from WoW, is such a huge quality of life thing that I'm just like, that alone like is tempting for me. Like, if I was going to do one, it's like, okay, I can be a dabbler and not have to redo all this nonsense again.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
which WoW has gotten a lot better. Like, in fairness, WoW, Dragonflight, and especially in War Within, is doing a lot to combat that. They are finally making everything like account bound and making it a lot easier to just go, we get it. You have alts, you have different classes. There's a lot of different specs. We want you to play them. Go nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, I have been interested in coming back to it, if for nothing more than like, I don't really feel, and granted, I've been out of it for a while, but I never really feel like, let me see, do I actually feel what I'm about to say? Do I
This
truly,
is important. You need to be clear about
do
it.
I truly believe this? I don't think the storytelling in World of Warcraft has ever been that good.
You're right.
And
that is not a controversial opinion.
I don't.
No idea.
I don't even think it's as good. Like, I think the real thing that made me think about it is, I don't think that the storytelling in World of Warcraft was even ever as good as Warcraft 3. Or the
that is Throne. Again, not a controversial opinion.
And
not as controversial as you might think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not. You know, I was just, but, and part of that is by structure, but there's also scripted moments and stuff. But to hear so many people that I respect talking about the story in FF14, it being an MMO, and having so many people play it, and having when this generation launched with the Switch, one of the things that I said was, because the previous generation, a lot of people I knew were on Xbox and I was on PlayStation, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do a couple of things. New generation resolutions. I was like, I'm going to play series that are popular and I've never played before. I'm going to jump into those and experience them. And I'm going to go where the people are. So where the people go, I'm going to go, because I know about myself that I like to play with other people. I like to be involved in the community. That's important to me. And with so many people jumping from WoW to FF14, that's why I originally started. And I played with some people that were coworkers at the time. You know, I played some with Matt Kim and Bo Moore from IGN. I played with Joshua Mobley. I played with, his clan and a bunch of other stuff like that. But I fell off just because I liked it, but everybody else was doing something totally different. I really only had like one or two people that had time when I had time, or who were willing to jump in with me on certain things. And it was always like they're higher level and they're going to come in and help me. So most of the time I was alone, and MMOs do not sing when you're alone. That's not what they're there for. But
some of them have gotten better about that and cater to it more, but it's still just, it's not the point. What are you doing here, right?
But given the repeated positive critical reception of a lot of these expansions, and Lucas, as you had said, so many people in our peer group jumping into this, I've been like every time I'll see more people posting about it, and I'll see more people being like, God damn, like this is really good. And I'll be like, I'll feel that pull. Cause I used to be a guild master in WoW. Like I played that for ages. One of my friends helped make the game, for fuck's sake. And so I had a real connection and a real community, and I learned a lot about myself through playing WoW, and I grew a lot, and I experienced a lot. And there is a part of me that kind of is thirsty for that, kind of hungers.
It's a formative experience. It's hard to stay away from it completely.
And there is part of me that's like, maybe I could sub out some of this, like one player game stuff, some of this fighting game stuff, and go back into this and reconnect with
phone call.
But that better not be the grocery store. I gotta pick up in a little bit, but I've been interested, so we will see. Maybe this will get me back after I'm done with Elden Ring and some other stuff that I'm working on. But
yeah, I suppose the best way I can frame it is like, more than anything else, right? FF14 it's a Final Fantasy game that just happens to be an MMO. It's not the inverse, right?
Yeah.
And so there is a big focus on the story. There is a focus on the continuous narrative. In order to get to Dawntrail, I had to trudge through Endwalker. I couldn't just go, nah, I'll just, level up in dungeons and then jump to the new area. Can't do that. It's not WoW. So there is that through line throughout, and that's what separates it. And the longer it goes, the more it builds on itself, which is why like ARR was very much like, it was set up, it was done, and admittedly they made that game in half the time it needed because 1.0 was a disaster, and so they just like pulled a 5-year development, 2.5 years, due to intense micromanaging, and like it's a miracle of game development that game came out as it did. And as a result, there are a few corners and chase bits there, but then that's why when they started doing the patches, it's like, okay, we can take our breath, we can focus a bit on this, we can get the story rolling as we want. And then it culminates at the end of ARR with a big event that leads right into Heavensward. And then from there, Heavensward is great. It's a very solid story. And then it went from there. But that's the thing, right? It is that continuous story throughout. It may be an MMO in theory, and it definitely has that. It definitely has, the group content and the big raids and whatnot. You will still need to, pull a couple of friends together or queue with a couple of randoms in order to reach the end. But at its core, it wants to tell this story. It wants to tell the linear narrative with the set characters, and then one character in there that, is an amorphous blob that is you, depending on how you want to make them. And yeah, and it's just different enough in that regard that, typical MMO players may not necessarily vibe with it. Typical RPG players may not necessarily vibe with it. But like, if you manage to find that middle ground and get in there, and a lot of people do, because they play it, they stick with it, and they go, oh yeah, this is something special. Usually about the point Shadowbringers hits, and you go, this might be the best Final Fantasy game ever made, which is what I believe. So,
yeah, I play this game very antisocially. Like, I like playing games with people.
Lucas is like, Brian, you were 100% wrong. I only play this game alone.
Yeah, so just in general, I'm just very bad at making space for and prioritizing playing with people as much as I enjoy it. And 14 feels tailor-made, especially as time has gone on for people like me, where I will only occasionally play with other people. But just going through the story, like Dawntrail only forces you to play with other people one time. They have consistently added this thing called the trust system, where basically you go into the dungeons with the NPCs part of the story. And your reward for doing that, not only do you get to like take your time and look around the dungeons and like take in like little interactables, but there's also extra dialogue and additional like development in there. So I really only need to play with other people if I'm like repeating content. And that'll be for like doing things like farming equipment, because like the fashion aspect is a big deal in this game.
Fashion is the true end game.
Yeah. So it's times like that where it's like, okay, I'm done with the story, or I'm taking a break with the story. What's something I can like focus on to do now? And that's when I'll go in and play with other people. But
check out
otherwise,
some of the side content, other things like that, old content.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of which remains at least somewhat relevant, which is good.
Yeah, there's always something cool. I mean, there's like there's crossover stuff that's permanent instead of time limited. Like you can go in and do like the Monster Hunter stuff anytime. That's cool.
Yeah, you can go fight a Rathalos in that anytime you want.
Yeah, and then you can
That's
ride
just permanent now. Yeah.
Sick.
Rathalos fight is actually a really good fight too.
It is. But yeah, like most of the time I'm playing that game single player. And really just taking in the story, and it's even when I don't like it, and there are times where I feel like I am on an island where everyone is like, this is amazing storytelling, the best Final Fantasy. I'm just kind of like, I mean, it's fine, but like I like the vibes, I like the characters, but you know, I have other favorites, but even so, it is just really well made, even if it isn't my favorite. And when it is, the times when it is really good, times when it does really hit me,
it's
it really hits me.
good.
Yeah. So they do a really good job sort of like catering to every type of possible player. Because you can still play with friends. You can play with friends across servers. They've done so much to like take little bits and pieces of the game and its limitations and sort of rip them apart like Legos and tape them back together just in order to facilitate that kind of thing. Because you couldn't do that before until fairly recently. So they really have like found ways to try to make everyone happy and try to make changes that appeal to everyone in that sort of spectrum of MMO versus single player. And does a really good job doing all that. So it's like, even if I'm not actively playing with my friends, it's still kind of like there's like parts of the conversation that I get to kind of participate in, which to me, I guess, still kind of feels like I'm playing with them in a way.
Yeah, I may not queue with that many people, but the fact that we're still having this discussion, even though we haven't ever partied up, is still just, you know, it's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shared experience we can all talk about.
Yeah,
exactly.
Good stuff.
So yeah, it really is. It really is a game that sort of like casts a very wide net, despite it being a very niche kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's very unique in that way.
And it has, unlike other MMOs, particularly like WoW, the popularity of other things feeds into it. So like they have near crossover events. They have stuff with like Final Fantasy 15, Final Fantasy 7. 7 remake is huge.
Yokai Watch.
Yeah. All kinds of stuff. Like it's Square stuff, you know. And so yeah. So it's not structured the same way. It doesn't benefit from some of the same things that that others do, or doesn't have the it has advantages others don't. So which definitely helps.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we will see if people can convince me to come back to it, or if my pocketbook will say otherwise.
I think if you can find the time for it, it is worth going through Heavensward. it is worth going through Shadowbringers, Stormbloods. All right. I'm sorry, Timo. I'm sorry. It's all right. You
And
can skip
like
Endwalker.
they keep adding to the free trial as time goes by, so it's not even a pocketbook problem for a while. Like,
Yeah, you can
got
get all the way through
plenty
Stormbloods.
of story.
Well, unfortunately, though, if you've ever paid, you can't do it.
Oh,
That's the
right,
problem, yeah.
Right. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
it's not
motherfuckers.
nearly as flexible as like a WoW account is, unfortunately.
Oh,
And you
damn.
have to go through again the most 2002 website that ever was. That is the Square Enix fucking Mog Station backlog. Even again, just going back recently, it was almost a struggle of what,
How
why
does any of this work?
can I just give you money for service? This
Yeah.
is all I am asking for. You're a corporation. Take my money.
It's really frustrating. I like as somebody who paid for a specific reason because a friend was gifting me some stuff. And now it's like, now even if it doesn't matter how far they extend it, I can't benefit from it. And it's just like,
Yeah,
You would have to make a new account and start over.
and I'm not playing through ARR again.
Valid.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So
They have chopped it up a bit in some ways, apparently.
And
That people
not a
say.
lot.
Yeah,
It's
I can't speak to
quicker. Yeah, it's quicker, it's smoother, there's a lot less like level walls and such, but it is still at its core ARR is still ARR. You can only do so much.
Boomer.
yeah.
Yeah.
But hey,
All right.
I'll be
one
there, surprisingly.
One last word on Dawntrail. Sorry. I just got a Skype notification that was like political news. I was really confused
Wow.
for a second. Like, what are you doing, Skype? Why are you still on my computer?
Why are you still here? What?
Why are you telling me about
That's
the
like
news?
getting a fucking message from MSN Messenger, like blast from the past, you know?
I mean, I will
Oh my
say though
God.
that Skype was one of the better like video and call services.
Yeah,
Like,
up until it
Yeah,
wasn't.
for a long time.
And then they kept adding to it, and every time they made it worse.
yeah, it's really frustrating that when people were like, how about let's do Zoom as this pandemic? And I'm like, bro, we already have like better versions of this. What are you guys talking about? Anyways, that's a pet issue for me. Like the adoption of Zoom at the exclusion of much better program. Why can't the best thing win? That's so frustrating to me. Ugh.
Because the moment it becomes the best thing, then they go, okay, but the number has to go up, though. And so they keep adding to it and bloating it, and eventually it becomes the worst thing.
It's like
Being the
then
best
we
thing is
move
not
on.
profitable.
yeah, Google is bad now. And
Yeah.
Bing has always been better. It's just really obvious. And there have been other browsers that are way, way better than even that. And they haven't succeeded even though they were the best. And it's just like, oh my God, just throw me into the sea. But anyways.
It's funny, Chris. I feel like you and I are one of the few people I've talked to that really didn't care for Endwalker.
Yeah, we're a rare breed, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we're both very high on the early parts of Dawntrail. Something I've noticed between like me reviewing it and other peers reviewing it is even though folks are very high on Dawntrail, I've noticed I gave it a higher score than most of my peers. B, a lot of that higher score is a pretty big difference in how we felt about the first half. So
Do you like
I'm
Wukong?
curious.
Yes, no.
Yeah, is really interesting, and there's like a lot of stuff about how like the main quest goes that I guess people have issues with like the pacing of it and stuff. So
There's
I
definitely
continue-
issues. I've even seen a couple already, but it's just like, by and large, the overall thing is pretty solid. So it's like, yep, fine.
So I'm just curious to see as you go on with it how that continues to play out.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Watch this space. I'll
Yeah,
keep chipping away at the MSQ and keep you posted.
hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah, one other quick thing, and then I think we'll wrap it up. Another thing that I have been playing, I ordered because because I made a profile for my daughter on the PlayStation 5 so that she could play What the Golf, which is an incredible game, and you should definitely play it. I reviewed it on here, so that's like full disclosure.
Yeah, you did talk it up. I remember.
I reviewed it. It's incredible. So because my daughter wanted to play that on my PlayStation, I made her an account. And when we were picking her profile picture, I just clicked into the thing and gave her the option. I thought she would probably take Spider-Man because she loves Spider-Man. She did not. She chose a little character called Sackboy, and which led to me picking up Sackboy: A Big Adventure.
Oh, okay.
And so I've been playing that with her, and it is a whole lot of fun. So
I forgot that game existed.
Me too. But yeah, it is. I've been having fun with that. That was one of the things that we did once we went over to like the neighbor's house. We left the cats here because they can handle like the situation. So we basically just treated it like we were out of town and we were the person's cat sitting.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the times she came back, there was the Amazon package that I'd ordered before the hurricane hit. And so that was brought back to the neighbor's house, and I ended up playing that with all the kids there, and it was a lot of fun. So I will talk more about that later, but I just wanted to throw that in there that like that was a nice little surprise. Like Riley has gotten to the point where she's pretty good at games, and she was like playing on her little cot in the room, and she had my Switch and was like, Dad, I was trying to figure out how to play Street Fighter, the old She's like trying to pull up like Alpha 3 or, Hyper Fighting or Third Strike or something. Just being like, I want to play Dalsum. And I'm like, well, he's not...
I'm sorry, man. It's over. You got to try again.
Yeah.
This kid's broken.
She, in Street Fighter, her character is Dalsum, and in Guilty Gear, her character is Potemkin.
Okay, no, I take it back. Potemkin is worthwhile.
She's a beast. She knows what she wants, and she goes after it. She likes the long, skinny boy, and she likes the big boy. So, yeah. Anyways.
If you're 5 years old and can pull off a heavenly Potemkin Buster already, you're all right in my book.
She's 4, and she hasn't done that, but she has definitely done standing heavy slash and just punched across the map and smacked people out of the air. And on Street Fighter, she's doing teleport mix and all kinds of stuff because I put her on dynamic controls. But
as you do.
Yeah. Which is, let me tell you, it's fun to fight a flailing 4-year-old with like auto combos and mix-ups and confirms and stuff. It's pretty wild.
I'll bet, yeah.
But, yeah. Anyways, that's all
My
I
kid
got.
only wants to play Terraria.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. For Riley, it's like Freshly Frosted, What the Golf, and now Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and then Street Fighter. Like those are the things that she likes.
Interesting mix.
Yeah. Yeah. This is why I just, as a complete aside, this is why I beg people not to don't. Let me back up. When you have kids,
I think I know where you're going.
I hope so. I think it'll be really interesting if you don't. When you have kids, there's a French philosophy, or at least swim class in France is called becoming accustomed to the aquatic milieu, which is basically getting used to just being in water. In America, we call those swim lessons. There's a purpose to it. We are going there to learn how to swim. But in France, the philosophy is more open-ended. It's like, this is just about being in the water and everything that comes along with that. And you just put the kid in the water and you see what they do. And they just do whatever they want. And if there are any parents out there or prospective parents out there, I recommend that you just do like the French do. Set your kid down in the water of life and just see what happens. Like, I have a 4-year-old girl, and her favorite games you would never guess. Her favorite things, her favorite characters, her favorite whatever, you would never guess if I just was like, oh, you should be into pink princesses and whatnot. But as it stands, she wants to be a degenerate Dalsum player in Street Fighter. And
Absolute
you know what?
sicko.
I love it. It's great. And I love that that my wife and I agree to not like try to force her down any one path and just let her experience what she likes in life. Because we should all be so lucky as to have people not put their thumbs on the scales of our lives and just let us explore the space, because it's wonderful to be alive. It is really wonderful when other people are not making it hell. And you can
pigeonholing someone is a good way to breed resentment in general.
Yeah. No, this is exactly where I thought you were going. So many times growing up in gaming spaces, you'll see someone on, I don't know, Facebook or whatever place people post dumb shit where they're like, oh, if I had a kid or when I have kids, I'm gonna put them down in front of the NES and have them play Ninja Turtles before I put them in front of any
will
new
grow
thing.
up the same way I did.
Like, you are a fucking sociopath if you do that.
Yes.
Just let your child, like, you're only going to be allowed to play these super hard NES games, and that's how you'll be a true gamer child of my loins. And it's just like, your child is going to hate you, and they're going to hate video games. They're never going to want to play them with you.
It's a good way to not have them in your life 30 years from now. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like, my kid likes Terraria and Minecraft, and as much as I'm like, I have no interest in any of this, I do not grab him and then put him down in front of, like, Wizardry 5 and tell him no Terraria until you can clear the first floor.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting anyone down and going, look, Sixpool Zerg Rush, or you're not eating dinner. Yes, got a spit take. Ha ha.
Oh my god.
In fairness, they do need to learn how to defend against that, but...
Oh, yeah, no.
You know.
You absolutely need to know how to defend against a Sixpool, but I'm not going to force you to do the Sixpool.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you want to play Pokemon? That's cute. Here's Final Fantasy Legend 2.
Yeah.
To me personally, Chris, I don't do the Zerg Rush. I do early Spire Hydralisk. So
Mutalisk? Spire gives you Mutalisk.
Yes, Mutalisk, but I also have.
But you also go.
I also have Hydralisk.
Okay. Fair.
A balance between Hydralisk Mutalisk is like.
It really depends if you're playing one or two, because in one, Hydralisks are a given because they're just the best, right?
Yeah, two, I was specifically talking about 2.
Yeah,
which was the only time I ever played competitive. But
fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I like myself the flexible unit. Hydralisks, air ground, Mutalisks, air ground.
I kind of had that. That was actually a problem of why I didn't get into StarCraft 2 Zerg as much in the beginning, is because I felt kind of pigeonholed in the fact that if I wanted an anti-air, I had to specifically go for it, because if they rushed air, I would just lose.
Yeah.
Because at the very least in base game, it's like, the original game, it's like you're going to have Hydralisks.
Yeah.
Because they're just your go-to all-rounder for the mid-game. It's like, cool.
That's
Here,
why
it's like you
Terrans,
specifically got to go out of
are
your
so much
way.
easier.
Yeah.
It's just because like your basic Marines can just attack anything. Anyways, not to get into StarCraft strategies, but
are you sure we could talk about StarCraft?
I am very pleased that you got that spit take, because the Lucas spit take is a true delight.
It was. I'm sorry, Lucas. It was genuinely very satisfying to see.
I understand. I'm just glad I kept it down.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right, folks. The hell is that sound?
Shall we?
Anyways, yeah, something just happened off screen. I guess I'm gonna see what happened. Hopefully it wasn't anything bad. No. But all right. But anyways, from everybody here at the Jesus Christ.
Jumping ahead a little bit.
Can you
Oh
tell
my
I've been
God.
through some stuff?
I can
Anyways.
see, yeah.
This has been episode 319 of the Platformers. I hope you like everything that you see here. Follow me over at Ribnax on Twitter and YouTube and Twitch. You can follow me at Brian Barnett at Backlogged and Blue Sky. DM me or like tweet at me or whatever. I am trying to be more active. I try to respond to anybody who like engages with me. I really like that.
We
As
will
we've
answer
talked
questions
earlier.
on the show.
Yes, and we do absolutely answer questions on the show if you're in chat or if you have like messaged us on Twitter or whatever, and we're happy to cover stuff that you guys are interested in. One of the things that I really pride this group of people that I've assembled with is having a very diverse and deep knowledge pool about a bunch of different types of things. So, there's
We know some
somebody.
shit.
There's somebody that I can get on this show to talk about what it is you want to talk about. So, anyways, that's where you can find me. Chris, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Versus the Backlog. That's vsthebacklog.com, one word. I'm usually on the internet under the name of Delpheir, Delfeir. Say hi if you see me in various games. I also want to give a shout out to another big update just happened at Most Acclaimed Games, which is run by a friend of mine, and I contributed somewhat. It's an interesting project that has come quite a long way and is worth checking out. So go show some love to that.
And if you want to learn more about that, you can check out a previous episode of The Platformers where we interviewed this person about this site.
Indeed, and I should probably get him back on sometime and probably have more to talk about at this time.
Sounds good. Lucas.
Yeah.
Yo. You can find me on socials at Hokuto no Lucas. My writing, you can find, I guess, the most recent writing across shacknews.com, gameinformer.com, kotaku.com, and most recently inverse.com. Two of those four only have one article, but I still recommend reading them.
It counts.
Yeah. So that is where you can find me.
Very nice, very nice. And if you follow me on social media, you will probably see me talking about Evo very soon.
Ooh.
It's almost that time.
It is almost that time. In fact, I've got 2 solid days of work and then I leave. So, so I will have some stuff to talk about before too long. So from everybody here at the Platformers, we hope you guys have a wonderful week out there and stay safe. I know I had a...
Don't lose your power to hurricane.
Don't lose your power or your roof or anything else or your favorite tree to hurricanes. Anyway, stay safe out there because until next time, we are out.
Peace.
Goodbye.